Thank you, Sal, and thank you everybody who's joining us today. I'm really excited, honored to be here. Thank you, Awareness Networks, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this book. This book is about building organizational or corporate social media programs. I don't want anybody to think, I work for a small business or a small organization. This is really going to be for really big organizations and not really applicable to me. It is. While some of the examples that we'll use and some of the things we'll talk about obviously are going to be from my experiences at both IBM and General Motors, the principles of building an organizational social media program probably aren't going to be all that different in a big organization or a small organization. I think everything's sort of applicable across the board. So we'll, with that in mind, we'll get started here. You can pretty much always count on a couple of things in life: death, taxes, and certainly the bandwagon. Whenever something becomes popular, whenever something becomes in, you can count on lots of people jumping in and trying to be part of it. When you're looking at sports, we all know people who became lifelong fans of the Boston Red Sox in 2004, or Yankee fans who only show up when the team's in the World Series, or people who ran out to go buy Miami Heat jerseys as soon as LeBron and Chris Bosh signed their contracts there. It's a little bit annoying if you're a sports fan, but it does happen. When you apply this to the business side of the house, business history is sort of filled with concepts, new platforms, new ideas, new processes that not only spring up, a lot of people want to adopt Six Sigma or knowledge management or TQM, but then a cottage industry sort of springs up around it about consultants who are more than happy to go in and charge companies money to teach them how to apply these or teach them how to do them well. And in a lot of cases, frankly, the cottage industry for consulting ends up being a more lucrative one than the process itself. And that certainly happens in social media as well. There's a whole lot of people who proclaim themselves experts, more than happy to go in and talk to big companies, teach them how to do this, charge them money to teach them how to get on Facebook and Twitter. And a lot of them are good. I don't want to be overly critical of this, but the problem is that doing social media on the outside as an individual or as a consultant is sort of very different from how it's done when you're working inside an organization. If you've not played the game, if you've not been inside the corporation or the organization, you don't necessarily know all the challenges that are going to be presented to you when you're trying to implement a social media program, trying to get out and do Facebook or Twitter, trying to start a blog. All those things are very different. You have to do a lot of different things inside an organization to make that work. And it's also the case that representing a brand online and representing that brand well and finding that right mix between a marketing message and sort of a humanized, more personable company, that balance and that practice is very different than representing yourself or building up your own brand inside a company. And inside the company, what you're really dealing with more than anything else is internal politics, building an internal structure that's going to enable you to have this practice and to move forward and to find some success. And if you're never been inside the company, if you're outside, you don't really know how to make all those things work. So what we tried to do with this book is just explain not about how to use Facebook, how to use Twitter, how to get onto Google Plus, or how you should blog well. There are plenty of very good books out there that kind of describe that. This book is focused on how do you build an organizational practice in social media? How do you make it part of how the company or the organization interacts with its consumers, interacts with its audiences? How do you make sure that it's successful from the inside out? You need to build bridges. It's not just about going on Facebook. It's not just to these networks. It's about knowing how to connect with the right departments inside the organization, knowing how to go back and connect in with legal, knowing how to build an organization that's structured for success that's going to enable you to do all those things on the outside. Now, a common mistake that I tend to find, or that we tend to see in social media, is that there are so many platforms out there and so many different channels for social media that generate so much buzz that it's really, really easy for companies to get overwhelmed. And many of them usually think about their social media program in terms of the platforms first. What's our Facebook strategy? What is our Twitter strategy? Do we have a brand page on Google Plus yet? Are we doing anything on Foursquare? Hey, let's go build viral videos. Do people care about our clout score? Or should we build a Tumblr? Oh my gosh, I hear Pinterest is growing at 4,000%. Are we doing anything on Pinterest? And when you see all that kind of thing happening, and when you look at it from social, from an external platforms first approach, that can lead to something of a shiny object syndrome. Companies scrambling to build in a presence or establish a presence on every new network that emerges, whether that presence is actually strategic or supplements their business goals or not. And that's not necessarily what you want to be doing from an organizational standpoint. It's not really about being on every network. It's about using these tools to further your business strategy. Now, a common mistake that you see organizations doing, again, is this looking at the external stuff first. And there's a bigger problem than just disorganization. The organization's looking the wrong way, they're focusing on the wrong things, and they're missing their attention on what they really need to be doing to be successful, looking inside the company first, building the structure that will enable that business success and the external success eventually. Organizations that don't have the internal foundation to support social rarely meet their full potential in social media. That's due to disorganization, resistance, inconsistency, or just lack of resources. I know this because I've been inside two of the biggest organizations in the world, both IBM and General Motors, and I was integral to building their social media programs. We won awards with both companies, so we've done well with the programs that I've built. And as I said at the beginning, this book tries to incorporate the lessons that I learned at these two companies into sort of a quick, easy to digest way of helping you build your own program. It's been my experience that there are 7 essential internal elements to building a social media program, and if you don't have any one of them, your odds of success tend to go down. So you want to try and take care of the internal house first and then move to your external house. And those 7 elements are an executive champion, and we'll go through each of these and explain in a little bit more detail what they are, who they are, and why they're important. You need an executive champion inside the organization. You need clear lines of authority as to where social sits and who's calling the shots. You need a social media evangelist, and that's not just the face of the brand outside the company. That's somebody who's building the actual program inside the company. You need sensible measurements and metrics that actually make sense for your business goals, and I'll get into why some of the more traditional social media measurements may not necessarily be as accurate as we might want to believe or as representative of success as we want to believe. You need a significant partnership with legal. That tends to make people cringe when they say, oh my gosh, I have to go work with the lawyers. If you want to be successful as an organization in social media, yes, you do need to work with the lawyers, and we'll talk a little bit about why and how you can do so. You need a solid social media policy. It can't be something, when social started first emerging, companies had very pithy, very lighthearted social media policies that boiled down to don't be stupid. That's sort of the thing that was one of the most famous ones. That's cute, it's fun, and it gets across the sort of general spirit of social media, but it doesn't really stand up as a corporate policy, and there's a lot more that needs to go into it than that, and we'll go through some of the things that go into good policies. And employee education and training. Even if there's only 1 or 2 people inside your organization who are doing social officially for their job responsibility or on behalf of the company, most, with 800 million users on Facebook and 200 million people on Twitter and Google Plus over 50 million, your employees are out there and they're probably engaging in conversations that reflect on your brand or that are about your brand, whether you know they are or not. So employee education and training doesn't just go to the people that are officially representing your brand, it goes to the entire organization, and we'll talk about what you need to do there as well.